Oh my gosh, the gym is a mess. You can tell this is not my usual jam for sure. But the ECFIT crew is definitely on a roll. And I am just moving and grooving, so totally a little bit out of whack. Okay, Mobility Monday is going to be really focused today. We're going to get through the ankles really quick, so since I'm working on lower leg, definitely going to go barefoot. And then we're going to work a lot through the pelvis, because here's what happens in the off season. And as I just did my Instagram post, the off season is really the beginning of next season. So I'm even starting to feel it in my training that the opportunity for me to get better on the bicycle is there. So my bike focus is going up. And so the physical ask on the bicycle is where my focus is really coming. And then I don't want to lose the comfort and the fluidity that I have in my run. So I'm making sure that my mobility routine is really in check. So I would say a very high percentage of athletes who ride a bike and enjoy running experience tightness in the hips and in the ankles and in the thoracic spine. So even if you're not a triathlete, to be honest, your mobility practice has to stay in check in the off season. It doesn't have to go full on into like that's all you do is mobility. It shouldn't be that way, but you have to keep up with it, okay? So we always want to start Mondays this way. We need to keep this hip capsule fluid and in that decoupling opportunity through the pelvis. So I always like to get here a little bit early. I had to get here early to clean the gym, but let's go just some nice, easy, and since our focus in mobility is not stretching muscles, it's giving the nervous system the opportunity to interact with the fascial system for lasting change. And that's why frequency and consistency are so important. So right here, we can, because our focus is fascia, because it's connective tissue, it's okay to kind of do some dynamic movement into this hip capsule, right? We need it to move. Same thing, other side, just a nice, easy, dynamic load into that back hip. And we can put a number to it. We can say 8 or 9 or 10. I typically am watching a clock and doing a little bit of time under tension. So don't get upset with me if we do 11 on one side and 12 on the other. Just kind of hang out, do the thing together, and I think ultimately we're going to come out just fine. All right, we're going to work the pelvis as one piece into a hip hinge. So with this position, the goal is to keep the chest up, push the hips back. Hip hinge. So the spine is one piece. There's no flexion in the spine, just pushing the hips back, working through the hinge, and then just come right back out of it. That shouldn't be difficult. Just getting nice and warm through the hinge. Good. Adductors. So we're going to just take it from that same position we were just in, take that foot out to the side. We're going to go 5, 5, and 5. So we will do reps on this. The position of the foot matters. Let's pull the foot behind 90 degrees or right at 90 degrees. Widen your stance out so you feel stable. And then we're just really looking, if you see that ball or a viper, let's use a foam roller really quick. See that position of my knee, that foam roller is 2 to 3 inches away from the foot. The heel stays on the ground. For the first 5, we want the knee way over the toe. For the second 5, we're going to go ahead and take the knee doesn't have to go over the toe, but we're going to start to rotate. Okay? And then for the third one, we're going to take that out to the side, and we're just going to push the hip back and get a little bit more into hamstring adductor. 4 and 5. Okay, so same thing other side. The knee goes out to 45 degrees. We've got to pull the foot back just a little bit so that we can get the knee way over the toe. Okay, 5 reps there. Keep that heel on the ground. Good. Next 5, we're going to go ahead and add a turn. Bring the foot back out so that that knee is in fact 90 degrees. We're just going to turn away. The knee is still kind of pushing over the toe. It's just not the focus. 3, 4, and 5. And then the last one, we're going to take that foot out from the knee and push straight back and work that little bit of hip hinge. 2, push the hips back. You're starting to get the hamstring in there. And you're not going to extremes, right? You got to take what your body will give you and work within that movement bubble. The goal is to expand the movement bubble. We're going back to that nice, easy hip hinge. Don't ever take that for granted. 3. This is how we get under load as well. 4, I had a bunch of people join me last week for the strength sessions that happened later in the week. Same time, 6:45 Thursday and 6:45 Saturday live sessions. They feel very similar to this. If you'd like to do that, you got to email me, Erin@ECFITStrength.com, and I'll send you the link. Good. I use Zoom for those sessions, not YouTube. So you have to kind of get into a different plan. All right. So from right here, we're going to work a spinal flexion. So we've been working a little bit. If we want to be strong here, nice flat back, you have to be able to get there, right? So let's just tuck the chin, round the spine, let the backs of the hands touch the top of the feet, just round the spine, nice and easy. I wouldn't put anybody under load like this. Some strength coaches do. It's not my jam, right? I want you to be able to go there. I want you to be mobile there. You will ultimately get stronger there as the spine gets stronger in stability and a nice stable spine. Okay, so let's take square off the outside of your feet. Feet are just outside of shoulder width. We're working the hip hinge again. From here, I want your feet to stay on the ground. And I want your feet pretty straight. From right there, just push the hips back, chest stays up, eyes stay up. 2, we want to get all the toes on the ground. Push the hips behind the heels. 4, 5, 'Good. 1 more. And good. All right, we're going single arm relax. That means you grab the ponytail in the back. The hand, the whole hand is going behind the head. I cannot see my elbow out of the peripheral vision. And from right here, we're just doing a side bend. So we get a hip shift to the right as we side bend left. Hip shift right, side bend left. Get a little bit of weight shift to the right side of the body, to the right foot. Elbow stays back, opening up the lateral line. The lat, TFL, IT band. And good. Same thing other side. So this one is going very lateral. So there's no hip back to the back. Side bend. Feet are straight. 2, 3. My cue on foot position is going to be to square off the feet. I don't need them in internal rotation. We just want them squared off the outside of the feet. 3, 4, and 5. Let's ask the body to give us a little bit more. And maybe you're noticing I can move one way better than the other. I can feel it. Okay, so when I say square off the feet, it's important that we get this right, guys. The outside of the feet, this part, should be parallel with the other foot. And that's going to put us into a very neutral, slightly internally rotated hip position. Let's keep that position and take right foot behind left foot, right elbow behind the head. I don't want to be able to see it. And we're just gently shifting and side bending. 2, 3, just got a little crack in the ankle. That tells me that this movement affects my entire body. Just got a little bit more mobility in the ankle. And good. Because that position is a little bit less stable, because I'm narrow, it's going to upregulate my nervous system and shut down some mobility. The safer your body feels in space, the more movement it's going to get, right? So it's important to continue to do these things over and over again. Okay, left foot behind right foot, pretty narrow stance. 1, 2, 3, 4, shift. That hip goes that way. Okay, good. You don't need much movement there. You just want some. Okay, from right here, shoulder width, square off the feet. We're going to rotate through the hips. You're going to feel this down in your feet. And all I want you to do is just try to turn sideways, sideways. Get that hip towards the midline. Get this hip towards the midline. And just rotate around that. All these things, like, they're not too crazy, right? You could do these all throughout the day. Just rotate, 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 and rotate. Good. Okay, lower body, full body, pretty warm. Tissue is definitely starting to get heated up. If you're in your home gym and you happen to have your stability ball around, we could probably use it today. Okay, you're sitting with your feet way outside of hip width. Get wide, don't be conservative here. See this distance between the foot and the knee. If you're here, you're too tight, okay? So create space between the foot and the knee, and we're just gonna hip toggle. Those of you looking to gain speed on the bicycle or gain power and strength on the bike, which will in turn hopefully give you speed, you need to have these floppy hips. If you're looking to, and then you need to have strong hips, and that's why you might want to join me on Thursday and Saturday. But the biggest thing is, if you want to become a faster runner or run more economically, then freedom in the hips and through the entire body will also help, because your nervous system senses safety, and therefore, go ahead and lay back. Feet this time are right outside of the hips, barely outside of the hips. We're going to do a little penguin move. It's an activation, so we're just going to lift the left butt off the ground and then put it back. Then the right hip off the ground and put it back. You guys, this is so subtle. Lift the left hip, create space under the butt, come back. The knees are quite still. We're starting to move the pelvis on its own. And if you put your hands right on your hip bones, which are also known as your ASIS, you're going to feel them moving, hopefully, independently. So when I lift my right hip bone drops. When I lift my left hip bone drops. And we would call that just a little hip toggle. And it's a very safe position because my SI joint is on the ground and my brain's like, oh, we can do that. We can move that. So this little hip toggle becomes a really, really important part of the process of hip decoupling. All right, Let's put that into a little bit of action. Alternating knee grabs. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. And that should go really nice flat hip here. I have a pretty flat low back right now too, which means that in this position, my pelvis is in neutral, which I kind of like. It means that my femur, that big bone in your upper leg, is moving really freely through the pelvis. Let's go back to the knees up, feet about just hip width. Lift the right side and the left side. Mobility can also be enhanced by strengthening the body. So right now, the movement that is happening here is being initiated with a co-contraction of the glute and a very little muscle called the iliacus. It's not actually that small, but it interacts very intimately with the psoas muscle. So having the iliacus have its own personality and be able to recognize that we like that it has its own personality. It just doesn't take on the personality of the psoas muscle, which is massive. Huge personality on the psoas, small personality on the iliacus, but still wants to be recognized, right? Okay, let's go into quadruped position. Right knee in front of left knee, 2 inches, no more than that. Hands are parallel. We're just gonna rock back and forward. We're gonna get more SI joint gliding here. 4, be patient. 5, 6, keep going, coming right at you. 7, 8, 9, good. It feels like you're doing basically nothing. Good? Okay, from that same position, keeping your right knee just in front of your left, hands are parallel, we're gonna shift to the right. That means there's equal amounts of weight on my right hand and my right knee, and then we're gonna shift over to the left. Left hand, left knee. Subtle. And what's happening way up in the hip joint, in that acetabulum, where the femur goes into that pelvis, which is called the acetabulum, is just a very subtle little shifting. So if you have had a labral tear or an issue with a labrum, this is a very safe, usually pretty happy position for your body. All right, let's do the other side. Left knee in front of right. Hands are parallel. We're just going to go forward and back. With regards to foot position on this, I really am okay with either tucking your feet under like that and working through your feet and big toe a little bit, or you can have your feet flat. It doesn't, you're okay either way. Okay, good. Good. And good. Let's go those side shifting. Left leg is in front. We shift left and right. Whole body, your shoulders and your hips working like a square. Good. And good. All right, let's go ahead and stand up. From right there, let's go into a couple of woodpeckers. So one of my favorite forms of mobility and activation and stability is using foundation training. Dr. Eric Goodman is one of the smarter guys, and I definitely have so much respect for Eric, and he's a teacher. So when we talk about foundation training versus yoga, we're really talking about upregulating the nervous system a little bit so that we can enhance movement and stability while decompressing the spine. And since I'm in an industry of strength that we are and endurance, where we're constantly compressing the spine, to me, it's really, really important to have decompression strategies, okay? So that's probably one of my little niches as a strength coach that sets me apart just a little bit. So we're gonna use the breath, the diaphragm, take a nice big breath, pull the ribs off the hips, push the hips back into that hip hinge and then float the hands to the height of the heart. From right there, when you see people doing this, you should ask them, are you certified by foundation training? And if they're not, I mean, they're still going to be able to use the system, but there's a lot of intricacies that go with it, and it just kind of, I'm double certified, so I'm a big advocate of giving credit where credit is due, letting you know where I learned things, where I anchor and continue to learn things. Push the hips back, hands to the front, nice big posture. Keep the ribs off the hips. Using your breath. And good. All right, same thing other side. So we're splitting the stance, we're decoupling the hips. Take a nice big breath, pull the ribs off the hips, recognizing that sets us up for a really good hip hinge. From right there, nice big breath. And just reach the hands forward, push the hips back. And from this angle, you can see that there's an emphasis on pushing the hips back. 2, 3. You're loading that high hamstring. 4. Last week, I felt horrible. So I had traveled, and this time your feet are going to be pointing out just a little bit. That takes the hips and puts them into external rotation. And you're just going to do a little frog squat. I had traveled, and I am not one to sit still. I do not like sitting. And all week I struggled. Everything felt tight. Everything felt bad. And I went to see my friend Mark, who's a chiropractor, who I love. And I only go to him a few times a year now because I do so much more foundation training and mobility. But man, I was out. And I feel so much better now. So Friday, he put me all back together. And good. And good. All right. Mobility Monday today was about hip hinge. It was about hip decoupling and subtleties around SI, sacroiliac joint mobility. So need to repeat this again, do it on Wednesday, go back a week. You'll see how herky-jerky I might have been moving last Monday. Hope you have an amazing week. Let's keep going. See you next Monday. Peace.